Welcome back. Today we're going to talk about paper number 3, which is a DJ Basin application. The first author of the paper is Sarah Campton from Great Western. They did extensive work in the DJ Basin, and we're going to review 2 of the areas. All right, so the paper is looking at wells in the Wilson pad as well as a Poso pad. There is a difference structurally between those 2 pads, even though they're the same completion design, but the Wilson is a much quieter structurally area, while Poso is a much more complicated. You can see the faults throughout the Niobrara, both in Niobrara and the Codell. Here's the gun barrel of the Wilson pad well placement. So there's 3 targets in the Niobrara. There are A, B, and C. There's also one target in the Codell. There's 9 parents well that we have monitored, which are in those pink, and there's also 20 plus well, which are the infill well. The production allocation is reflected in this slide. They're color-coded by their different zone. The green are the A well, including chalk and marl, and also the blue are the B well. The C well are colored in red and pink color, and then the Codell are in blue. Forhay is in this purple. The first information we see is that your key contributing zone are where the well are landed in most of the cases, but not always. If you look at, for example, the C landing wells, right? So in this case, the well landed in C, but almost 60% are coming from above the landing in the first production date. This well is the same, even more, about 70% of it. However, in the long term, it does go back to where it landed the well, but that's not always the case. That's the first observation. The second observation we see is that the Niobrara don't see the yellow. None of the wells see significant amount of the yellow, which is the Codell. However, the Codell, every single well, every single date, see noticeable amount of Niobrara contribution. The C are in the red and pink. So it's not a reciprocal. The Niobrara don't necessarily see Codell. However, the Codell are consistently seeing Niobrara contribution. The operator also have independent pressure test, which corroborate very well with our observation. Another interesting application, sort of looking at things volumetrically, which I think is very interesting, is because the well are having different production on each of the different dates, right? Our production allocation add up to 100%, but the well could produce 1,000 barrel or 500 barrel on that day, right? So they did something really interesting. So what you're looking at is the production allocation times total cumulative oil. So essentially allocating your total oil to each of the benches. And horizontally is different dates. So this is A well from the first day to the last day, first day. If you look at, for example, the A well, this contribution from 72% actually reduced to 62%. It looks like a reducing, but if you times the total cumulative, it is consistently increasing for every bench. So that is really interesting application when you consider the volumetric. That gives you the full picture of how much of my oil is coming from each of the benches. And then we're looking at the Poso pad. It is a structurally much more complicated pad. You can see that, for example, the C well are seeing, almost 35%, 40% contribution from the Codell in the first state. So it's a much more interconnected performance. So there's more talking among their wells, likely due to the structural complication in this area. It's in general, the Codell well are still consistently showing Niobrara contribution. The Niobrara contribution also sometimes started to see Codell, likely through those faults. All right, that's what I have for this current paper.